This happened in 2011 when I was 7. I'm a girl. Now I'm 14, and I just talked to my mother about this incident and decided to share it. So, I live with my grandmother, father, mother, and 2 dogs, quite far from any town. This house was big, so I usually play hide and seek with my mum a lot. I don't remember which month it was, so my mum filled me in on this. She said it was October during the holidays. This one particular day, my dad was out driving my grandma to the hospital, as she had an appointment with the doctor, so I was left alone with my mum. After several rounds of hide and seek and watching a movie with my mum, it began to get dark outside. My dad still wasn't home. I've always been scared of potential home invasions, so I was paranoid all day because my dad wasn't with us. He made me feel very safe. Me and my mum decided to play Monopoly. Fast forward an hour. When I was 7, I thought I was very sly, so I kept stealing money from my mum's stash. Now that I look back, she was probably pretending not to see. As I was taking a $50 bill from her Monopoly cash, she said, "The power will go out soon." This left me completely puzzled, as I had no idea how she'd know this. But sure enough, it went out about 15 minutes later, and I started to panic. As most little kids, I'm scared of the dark. I later found out that there was a power outage in my area because of a storm. My mum was notified of it. She handed me this Nokia phone and let me play my favourite game on it, which at the time was Doom. She told me to go hide under the bedsheets. If I'm scared, then that she'll be back soon. I asked where she's going, but she didn't answer. As she headed out of the room, she locked the door. I laid under the sheets, killing some monsters on the game for what felt like hours, but was probably only like 5 minutes. Footsteps were heard in the kitchen, which was next to the room I was in, so I took off the sheets off my head and yelled out, "Mum?" Glad that she's back, because I was really scared. But no answer was heard. The footsteps didn't stop, so I yelled again, "Mum, can you please come? I'm scared." After I had said that, the footsteps stopped completely. I got a sudden rush of adrenaline, so I held tight onto the phone and dashed out of the room to the kitchen, which was empty. I was puzzled, but didn't wait for long, as I ran to the door, unlocked it as there were keys on the inside, and ran into the corridor. Alright, so the corridor has 4 doors. On the right side, one at the very back, which I never was allowed to go in. I later learned that room was where my great-grandma died, and no one ever touched it since. It also had stairs next to it leading to the 2nd floor, and one at the front, which led to the outside. The 4th door I came through was the closest to the outside door, so I quickly opened the outside door, ready to run out. But the rush of adrenaline was gone, and I got scared of the outside too. It was very dark, and I was barely able to see. My only choices were 1, go back to the room I came from, or 2, scream for my mother. I chose number 2, and started screaming for my mum over and over again. I guess I wasn't loud enough, because there were no replies. I remember starting to sweat and panic. Different scenarios playing through my little head. Scenarios like a murderer killing my mum and coming for me next, or my mum leaving me forever. I know it's stupid, but I was only 7 after all. I remember looking down at my feet and beginning to cry. More footsteps were heard, but this time, behind me. I looked behind me and saw a silhouette of a tall person. I'm assuming it's a male, due to the body build. At the end of the hallway, standing in front of the door. I can't recall what he looked like, because it was all black. I stared at him for about 15 seconds, in pure horror. This got my adrenaline pumping again, and I ran out over the door towards the outside toilet, only to be greeted by my mother, who looked worried as hell. After I told her what happened through uncontrollable sobs, my dad was in the driveway already parking his car. My granny was left at the hospital for some treatment. He searched the house, but no one was found, so my mum told me it was just my imagination. But I know what I saw, and heard. Fast forward 7 more years. I live in another house, and I randomly remember about this incident, and talk to my mum about it. She seemed quite hesitant about telling me this, but at the end I convinced her to tell me. What she said gave me chills. Apparently, when I was 4, I started to stare at one particular corner of the kitchen, and laughed like crazy. My mum asked me what's so funny, and every time I pointed to the same corner, but never told her why it was funny. After a few months, the random giggles I let out when staring at the corner didn't stop. What my mum made loose is the fact I started speaking random German words that I've never heard before. We have no relatives that are German or can speak German, and I wasn't introduced to technology at that age either. My mother knew it's German because she can actually speak it a little bit, but never spoke it. She bribed me with candy to tell her how I learnt to say the following words in German. It, help, chocolate, shower, and war. My response completely shocked her. I pointed to the same corner again and said, "He taught me how." My mum kept her cool though. She asked me who I was talking about, and I said, "The man who makes me laugh." My mum asked me what he looks like, but I only said he looks like a shadow, and that he's from Germany. When she asked me where the man lived, I pointed to the second floor. This all made sense because I always hated the second floor. I never went up there because I felt like I was being watched. My parents took it upon themselves to Google the history of the house, and sure enough, it was built by the Germans. I don't remember any of this, but my mum kept on reassuring me that it happened. My father said he remembers it too, but decided not to tell me until now. I talked to the German man in the corner up until 5 years of age. I'm pretty sure you can put 2 and 2 together. But if not, then the man I saw when I was 7 was the same man I talked to when I was 4. Every time I go back to visit my grandma, I always feel uneasy.